Sometimes you leave to become better, to secure a future, to earn for a dream, to take a step towards stability. But outside the door of your apartment, your life. At this time, someone is taking a step towards taking away what you have. I left for work, and when I returned, the neighbor knew everything about my wife, even more than I did myself. I went on a business trip for 3 months, a big project, up north, construction. The conditions are tough, but the money is good. I had long wanted to pay off the loan, save up for a vacation, and my wife needed a rest too. She had had a tough few months. Before leaving, we were sitting in the kitchen. She was holding my hand, smiling. "Come back faster," she said. "I'm going to miss you." I nodded. "You know it's for us." And I left, with messages every evening, with video calls, with voice messages. "I love you, I miss you." I came back unexpectedly, ahead of schedule. We were let go a week early. Everything was handed over ahead of time. I decided to make a surprise. I didn't say anything. I just bought flowers, ordered a cab, and came home in the evening. Warm, dark, the house familiar to every detail. I opened the door. The apartment smelled of coffee and apple pie, her favorite recipe. She was in the kitchen, in pajamas. She smiled, but somehow strained. "You? Me? Surprise!" She rushed to hug me, but something flashed in her eyes, something that wasn't meant for me. The next morning I went out on the balcony. I was smoking, and I saw the neighbor, Arthur. He lives across the street. He moved in 2 years ago, divorced, always in t-shirts with inscriptions, doing repairs. He waved to me. "Oh, you're back?" "Yes, a little earlier," he smirked. "Well, then it's coffee on the balcony in the mornings again, just like the good old days." "How do you know she drinks coffee on the balcony?" He blinked. "Well, we've crossed paths a couple of times. We got to talking." Something in his voice was too confident, as if he knows more than he should. All day I was catching strangeness. My wife quickly turned off her phone when I approached. There was new men's shaving cream in the bathroom, not mine. On the table, a mug, not from our set, and also her touches. They became different, strained, rehearsed, without warmth. I felt like I was living in the same apartment, but in a different time, as if my place had already been taken while I was earning money. On the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I went out to the landing and went up to my mother's. She lives 1 floor above. "Mom, do you know anything?" She looked away. "No. About what?" "I feel like something's wrong. Have you seen anyone at our house?" "Who knows? Maybe friends came over." I looked her in the eyes. "Mom." She gave up. "Once?" "Yes, I went downstairs. I wanted to give Irene books. It was evening. I saw her open the door, and Arthur came out. He was in a t-shirt without a jacket, and it was 10 below zero then. Something broke inside me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a chair. I just got up. "Thanks, Mom." I didn't sleep that night. She was lying next to me, breathing calmly, and I was staring at the ceiling. My place in this bed was a shadow. She loved another, or just stopped loving me. The next morning I started a conversation. "Did you talk to Arthur often while I was away?" She tensed up. "A little. We're just neighbors." Mom saw him coming out of the apartment. "He came to help. There was a spark in the outlet." "At night?" Silence. She was trying to lie. Then tears. Then the truth. "It all started by accident," she said. "He was just there. And you were far away. I was bored. I was scared of the evenings. I couldn't cope. And you decided to replace me with a neighbor? It didn't mean anything. It did. It meant something to me. Because you betrayed me in my own apartment, in my own house while I was working for us. I'm sorry." Too late. I left. I rented an apartment on the other side of town, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I couldn't be where I was betrayed anymore. Arthur didn't make excuses. He didn't even come up. But once, and when we crossed paths at the entrance, he said, "Listen, it happened, yeah, but now she's alone, and you're gone, so it's all fair." I didn't answer, because fair doesn't mean keeping quiet and stealing someone else's. Sometimes you leave for a while, and you come back to someone else's life, a house where you dreamed of children, a woman you trusted, a neighbor who seemed like just a neighbor. Everything turns into a theater behind your back. But I didn't take revenge. I didn't take the dirt out. I didn't scream out the windows. I just left. I took myself. Because dignity is not loud words. It's the silence with which you leave forever. Would you be able to forgive, or would you leave in silence like me? Write in the comments. And if you've been betrayed, remember, this is not the end. This is a new path, only without those who were superfluous. I was home, but there was no home anymore. I rented an apartment in an old neighborhood. Nothing special. A shabby entrance, a dripping faucet. The windows overlooked the parking lot. But it was quiet there. And most importantly, she wasn't there. The first night I just sat on the floor, my back against the wall. I was staring into the void. You know, when your heart is broken, you expect anger, rage, hysteria. But the scariest thing is emptiness, silence inside. No scream, no desire to take revenge. Only, why? I was trying to understand at what point everything collapsed. Maybe when she wrote less often. Maybe when I started feeling her less in her voice. Maybe when I started giving everything to work and completely forgot to listen. Yes, I was wrong too. I left. I hoped that love would withstand the distance, but I didn't think it would last only a couple of weeks. And then, the neighbor. The neighbor, damn it. My mother tried to contact me. She wrote, invited me to dinner. I didn't answer. They knew. They saw. They were silent. Yes, I'm an adult. Yes, I have to cope on my own. But when betrayal comes into the house, you expect at least someone to stand next to you. And they were silent. We didn't want to interfere, she would say later, but they should have. 2 weeks passed. Work became the only salvation. Day, numbers, drawings, edits, night, an empty apartment, tea, a window. But one evening there was a knock at the door. Her. She was standing, as before, in a coat, disheveled, without makeup. Hi. What did you come for? I didn't know where else to go. I feel bad. And you should feel good? After what you did. She lowered her eyes. I'm not defending myself. I just want to explain myself. Too late. I miss you. You miss the convenience. And you haven't missed love in a long time. She cried. I looked at her and tried to remember what I loved her for. I didn't feel anything. No pain. No anger. I just realized the person in front of me is no longer mine. After she left, it became easier, probably because I put an end to it out loud. A month later, I started running in the mornings. At first, to keep from going crazy, then to get back to myself. The city woke up slowly. The sun slid over the wet asphalt, and there was something alive in it. Real. One day I met a woman with a dog, a Labrador, cheerful as a child. She, in a sports jacket, without headphones, just walking and smiling. He chose you, she said when the dog snuggled up to my legs. And I wasn't ready. No one is ready when something real comes. We started dating almost by accident. Conversations in the yard, then coffee, then the movies. Her name was Mary. A lawyer, divorced, calm, without pretense, without unnecessary questions. With her, for the first time, I wasn't afraid to be silent. On New Year's Eve, we were sitting at her place. No fireworks, no noisy guests, just the two of us, and music, and wine. She asked, "Are you still thinking about her?" I didn't lie. Sometimes, but not with pain, but like about a book that I finished reading. And I realized that I would no longer return to that story. She nodded. Then maybe it's time to start writing a new one. In the spring, I moved out of there. I rented out the old apartment. The neighbor, the one, tried to talk to me, but I didn't even look in his direction. Some people don't even deserve explanations. My mother still came. She sat down opposite. She put on tea. I'm guilty. I know. We saw. We suspected. But we were afraid to say. Because it's easier that way. She was silent. We thought adults will figure it out themselves. And you chose to be spectators instead of being there. She cried. I wasn't angry. I just let go. Because anger is also a connection. And I didn't want to be connected to anyone who chose silence when I was drowning. Half a year passed. Mary and I went to the sea, the first vacation in a long time. She was walking along the beach, barefoot, with her hair flying, and I was looking at her and realizing happiness is not loud, it is calm. I returned home, but there was no home anymore. There were walls left, a key, memories, but there was no meaning left. I left. Not because I lost, but because I value myself more than the opportunity to stay close to those who don't value me. And now I have a new home, not just walls, but a person who doesn't look to the side while you're fighting, but holds your hand. And if you are now at a point where everything has collapsed, believe me, this is not the end. It's just a new chapter. If you came back, it doesn't mean they're waiting for you. A year had passed. I still woke up early, drank strong coffee without sugar, and looked out the window. That same ritual that I used to do with her was now my own, without attachment, without falsehood, just silence and me. Life has changed. I was no longer afraid of loneliness. On the contrary, I was rooted in it. It has become not a hole inside, but a solid foundation. Mary stayed close, without promises, without drama. She didn't ask, "Do you love me?" She was just there, and I was with her. Not because I wanted to forget the past, but because I finally wanted to be real in the present. We didn't say to each other, "You are my destiny," but "I feel calm with you." And in this calm love, there was more truth than in all my past words about eternity. But you know, the past doesn't go away right away. Sometimes it comes back in the form of an SMS. One day, a message. "Arthur, hi. I don't know if I have the right to write, but can I just come once to look into your eyes and say everything without excuses?" I was looking at the screen. My heart didn't flinch, but something cold inside started moving. Several minutes passed, and I typed, "Come once. Just don't expect me to forgive you, but I'll listen." She came the next evening, aged, with regret in her eyes. In her hands, a photo. Our old ones. I recognized them. I was happy there. When I still believe that love is mutual fidelity and not a temporary cover from boredom. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. I nodded. "I'm not making excuses. I just want you to know I understood everything. And yes, I made a mistake. A big one." "You didn't just make a mistake," I replied quietly. "You chose yourself. That's normal. But you didn't warn me. You didn't say anything. You just replaced me, like an object." She lowered her eyes. "He didn't stay. We're not together. He left. A month later." I'm not surprised. People who start with betrayal rarely build something honest. Silence, deafening, but not angry. She put the photo on the table. "I don't want to come back. I'm not asking. I just want you to know I regret it." "I know," I said, "and I forgave you. But that doesn't mean I forgot. I just don't carry you in me anymore." She got up. She turned to the door. "Do you have someone?" "Yes." "Is she better?" "She's not better. She's different. She's my silence. Not a lie, not a role, but just a person without ifs and buts." Kate nodded and left, quietly, forever. I stood by the window and watched her walk across the yard, the one I once loved with all my heart. And now, I didn't feel anything. That's what real forgiveness is, when the past doesn't respond with pain, but just doesn't respond. A month later, I decided to take an important step. I bought a house, small but cozy, with a large window to the garden and a quiet bedroom. Not for the sake of status, not for someone, but because I wanted roots. Real ones. Mary helped to arrange it. She arranged books, hung lamps, bought plates, and I looked at her and couldn't believe that you could be so calmly next to someone, without screaming, without doubts, without pain. She knew what I had been through. and didn't rush me. She was an adult, and so was I. We didn't call each other destiny. We just held hands in the store. We shared silence, and that was real intimacy. And one day I said, "You know, I think I'm ready now." For what? For a life without fear, for love without conditions, for you, for real. She smiled. "Then let's go plant hydrangeas. They'll suit you." I came back from a business trip. Back then, on that very first night, I thought everything was ruined, that I had been betrayed and there would be no more life. But you know, sometimes betrayal is not the end, but the beginning of the road to yourself. Because when those who are random leave your life, there is room for someone who will be real. I'm not grateful for that pain, but I'm grateful that I now know. If you've been through everything and haven't become angrier, it means you've become stronger and you're not afraid anymore.